Yeah, say that again, guys. Sorry, mate. I still didn't have you tuned in properly. It's a real fine line with the tuning and the BFO. I think probably because we're quite close. But I'll have a fanny around with the switches and the knobs and the buttons and see if I can bring you in. Yeah, it is. It's the RF gain. It's because I think it's because you're relatively close. I'm transmitting on the FT817 as I was before, and the Eddystone 940's got an RF gain, a BFO tuning, phasing for AM, of course, and an AF gain. And I found the trick with these is to back the RF gain off and turn the AF gain up. It's the same with the AR88. But anyway, I'm also juggling with transmit receive switches and all that old nonsense and standby switches. I've had everything on for half an hour just to let it warm up and stabilize. So obviously I'm going to be transmitting okay. Now, did you say that you wanted to move off this frequency? Because I couldn't hear anyone else. Back to you.
Yeah, I was hearing somebody. I'm not hearing anybody now. But I was hearing somebody sort of a little while ago, just right down in the noise. They might come up more as we move into darkness, because it's just about dusk at the moment. Did I hear you? I've had a test with David WDT on his 18.5. I think I heard while I was mucking about with something. I think I heard you sending some test transmissions with your 18.5 as well. Back to you.
No, I wasn't sending any test. Oh, I did do earlier on. I was just saying test. That was probably a few hours ago. So no, not just recently. I've had it all switched on for half an hour just to let everything warm up and stabilise, both the receiver and the AT5. But I haven't transmitted with the AT5 since probably 4 o'clock this afternoon, something like that. Back to you.
Something. Maybe it was David making some more tests. David, I think his microphone needs some more but he was fully Q5 and copyable on the AT5. I've got my AT5 and T28 set up, as well as the Vanguard and the normal setup. The T28 receiver is rubbish anyway, but we'll see how we get on with it. Listening in my to the AT5 compared to the Vanguard, because I've got the Optimod in the way of the Vanguard, I've tailored down the audio so it's quite narrow, and I've reined it in so that I don't make it wide. What I've noticed about the AT5 compared to the Vanguard is the AT5 is wide as a barn door and sounds quite shrill, so there's a lot more top end in it. But I'm running my AT5 off of 12 volts. I've got the mobile power supply and the mobile switcher box, and I'm running it off of that because David's got my mains AT5 power supply marked. Back to you.
Yeah, okay, G0 UKNM0 JCF. Yeah, I've juggled you around there and you're sounding good. A little bit more tweaking, but the radio's drifting ever so slightly. Probably it's still in its warm-up phase. But yeah, do you know what? I had one of those mobile switch units and they look like they're upside down, don't they? Because the natural thing you want to do is put it on a table or something like that, because it would have been mounted underneath the dash. So I had one of of the mobile switch units, and but I've never had the. I take it it's 12 volts to 300 volts with a vibrator set up, isn't it, or something like that. So I don't know. Can you hear them buzzing or anything like that? I'd imagine that could be distracting because obviously you'd have it under, I would have said, the bonnet of a car back in the old days. But anyway, I digress. Yeah, David seems to be moving along with his. As I say, well, I'll talk about it when you've called everyone in. But I've done quite a collection the last like 3 weeks or so. Quite a collection of gear, and I'll sort of be keen to spout on about it then. So I see it's 8 o'clock, so maybe you want to call people in, and we'll go from there. As I say, I'm doing a convoluted switching for the antenna switching and the standby switch on the Eddystone at the moment. But back to you, G0 UK and M0 JCF.
I'll give a CK call out now. Obviously, because you're running the 817, you're not as strong as you would be normally, but you're fully copyable. So I'll put you at the top of the list. So there's me, so I remember me. Then M0 JCF. Right, anybody else for the Cray Valley Monday evening top man that? G0 UKN listening.
Mike 0 Whiskey Delta Tango.
Mike 0 Whiskey Delta Tango. Huge signal. Anybody else? 2E0 IQP. Good evening, Mark. Anybody else?
Golf 3 Whiskey Mike Radio.
Golf 3 Whiskey Mike Radio. Good evening to you, Frank. Anybody else? Anybody else for the Cray Valley first Monday of the month top band net? C0 UKN listening. Golf 4 November Oscar Whiskey. Hope the ankle is getting better, Dave. So good evening to you. Anybody else? Otherwise we'll go to the top. No, nothing heard. Very good evening all. G0 UKN. I'm on the KW2000A, so if it's dressed a bit, please excuse me. So the order is M0 JCF, M0 WDT, 2E0 IQP, G3 WNR, and G4 NOW. Well, good evening all. I've got a bit more gear set up here today than normal. I've got the Vanguard as normal. I've got the 2000A, but I've also got an AT5 and T28 mobile set up here, running off of 12 volts. So in answer to your question, Mark, it's an inverter power supply which runs listening to the whistle it gives off, running at about 7 or 8 kilohertz, I think. So a couple of PNP power transistors running as an oscillator, and that's what's producing the high voltage. And it seems to work okay. It's the net function on the setup doesn't work because the inverter gives out too much crap, and it just floods the T28 receiver. So that doesn't work. Yeah, not been a bad few days. I feel much better than I did Saturday. I had a rotten cold last week and still had that on Saturday. But nice to take part in the foundation. Some very, very sad news today that the landlord of my local has passed away, which is the Long Pond. I think Dave knows him, a chap called Mike Wren, who is a right old community figure, and he dropped dead of a heart attack, age 59. So quite a shock, really. So that wasn't good. But yeah, I'm trying to keep going. But yeah, that was a bit of a shock. What else has been going on? Not a lot, as I say. There's stuff all around the place because I've got this 85 up and running, so we'll have some fun with that today in a second. Right, I'll put it round to Mark, JCF, who's running on reduced power today, but I'll let him explain more. So the order again, just before I pass it over, is JCF, WDT, IQP, WMR and NOW. So quickly before I hand it to Mark, anybody else want to join the bottom of the list? G0UKN listening? No, nothing heard. Round to you, Mark. M0JCF, G0UKN.
Yeah, G0UK and M0JCF, and I've just found out I had this annoying buzz, couldn't work it out, and I realised it was a phone charger type of affair. I've just unplugged it, and the little buzzy noise has gone away. But good evening, everyone. I can hear everyone now. The setup I'm using at the moment for LSB is the Yaesu FT817. I'm sure everyone's hearing me putting out about, let's have a look, putting out about 3.8 watts. So, you know, it's putting out what the radio's meant to be putting out, no problem. Got an SWR of about 2.6 to 1, which isn't bad for my 90-foot long wire, random long wire. I'm receiving you tonight on the Eddystone receiver, Eddystone 940, probably one of their better receivers. I've had a few Eddystones in the past, never had a 940 before, but I bought this 940 a few years ago for 50 quid, and yeah, one or two little, you know, like the clean-up type problems with it. And the other thing that was happened is the gearbox on it was seized behind the flywheel that drives the capacitors, you know, tuning capacitors. So I couldn't tune more than about ½ an inch of scale. So lots of taking apart, putting together. They're a horrible thing to do that to. So anyway, I can now sweep them down. Every now and again there's a little bit of a clunk, and sometimes the needle will jam. So although I, you know, or going by eye, it's quite remarkable that I can get anywhere near 1.9 LSB. So the guy, you're very, very loud, as is Dave, M0WDT. In fact, he was louder than you. I switched on the AGC and had a look at the carrier level, and for what it's worth, you're both around, I suppose, 6 or 7. Now, carrier level, these meters are different from signal strength. So you're all 5 readability, but Frank and Dave, NOW, and is it Mark, 2E0 IQP, there was a little bit quieter. So really it goes by ear. And then because Guy, you was quite loud, as I do with the AR88, I back off the RF gain, turn up the AF gain, and then fine tune you with the tuning. And then yes, it's the BFO, although it says the position says CW stroke SSB, it probably is for CW, but you know, I have been tweaking that on the SSB as people have been calling in. So the selectivity as well, I've got to minimum selectivity. There's no one else around us, so there's no need for me to make it max or crystal. I did try though, and of course it does drop your signal strengths quite a bit. So yeah, so using the 940, I've got the AR88 up and running, lovely receiver. Could do with some switch cleaner in the pots, that sort of thing, but you know, I've got it working now. I really don't want to be mucking about with it. Sitting on top of that at the moment, I've got an HRO from the early 40s. Somebody gave it to me with an amazing coil pack set. It's got a coil pack in it, and then it's got A, B, C and D plus an extra one, and I think that might be quite low band. But anyway, that one really does need some work. I've had a clean up of it, so we haven't got around to sort of powering it up. It's 110 volts. I could stick it on the Variac and just bring it up slowly to 110 volts, but I really want to go through that one first. It hasn't been used since the late 50s, and I've got some other gear which I think I've documented in WhatsApp, etc. later. I've got some other gear at the same time, which is all very interesting. There's the BC 221 a frequency meter, but I'm going to use that for something else. A lot of people have already said to me, "Oh, sacrilegious, you can't take that apart, please don't, blah blah blah," but you know, I'm going to use it for what I need to use it for, and that will be having fun building, I think, a transmitter. It's got a nice oscillator in it, and of course I've got the KW160, which it works, but I haven't used it yet. I need to make a converter for my AT5 microphone to plug into the back of that one. So that's the story. And then of course the other bit of luck that I had this weekend, or rather Friday and Saturday. On Friday I picked up a Kenwood TS 940S, one that I repaired, not the one that I repaired, but I repaired one over Christmas, and this one's got very similar faults, so I know it's going to be dry joints on the processor board, so I'll go through that at some point. And the other good luck story that I had at the weekend, somebody sold me an FT 102 HF hybrid, which you've seen the photographs, manky old capacitors. I think one failed and then there was a cascade effect over time. He did say, "Oh, when I turn it on, after 5 or 10 minutes, a little wisp of smoke comes out of this area," exactly where the a supply board was. So I've ordered the capacitors, I've unsoldered all the old ones, you've seen the pictures, and I think that's just about it. I think I've had a really long go, a really long over, and I'll hand it round now to Dave, M0WDT from M0JCF in the group.
M0JCF, M0WDT, receive it.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. Okay, so you've been very busy getting lots of radios there.
And I must admit, some of them I don't even recognise, but I did see your posts on WhatsApp, and it looks like a lot of work. Yeah, so tonight I'm running the usual FT DX10, an inverted L, and for the AM section I'll be running the Codar 85 that Mark sold me, which has basically got almost a new set of valves in it, a new socket, thanks to Guy, and Guy's also loaned me his power supply, because the bench supply I was using is a bit noisy and not that great actually, quite poor. So yeah, I need to build myself a power supply. And I actually thought I might, you dream of these projects, but some of them never materialise, but I might build some kind of receiver to go with it as well. But I'll just be using that for transmit tonight, and I'll be switching antennas, so receiving on the AC and transmitting on the AT5 just for tonight. Nothing more to add so far. I've heard everyone, and I'll give you signal reports on the next round, and with that I'll pass it on to the next person. I'm not sure on the name. Was it another Mark? I'm not sure. Perhaps you could let me know. A 2E0 IQP from M0WDT.
Thank you very much. And I'm sorry I didn't catch your name either. It's Mark here, Mike Alpha Romeo Kilo, another one. And unfortunately, JCS. I knew, well, Guy mentioned that he was running on reduced power, but unfortunately, as is not unusual, the noise floor here is S9 plus 10, and so you've got to have a pretty good signal to get through, really. But I copied you, WDT, quite well. I'll give you proper numbers next time. And Guy was 5 and 9 plus 15, I think. So yeah, that was all good. Yeah, nothing much to report really regarding radio. The Coda don't know it, but it's a transmitter only. Is that correct? And was it a kit or what are they a make code? I don't know. I'll find out, I expect. I might have to cut my session short because I'm expecting to be summoned for dinner before not too long, but I'll hand it over to Frank, G3WMR from 2E0 IQP.
Right, 2E0 IQP and the group G3WMR. Missed your name, IQP, just at a crucial moment. I think you gave it there for David's benefit. And there's a burble on this frequency which I find really aggravating. It's better normally when we're up a little bit higher than this. And also a heterodyne that I managed to notch out with the auto notch, but the auto notch don't do anything much for the burble. Anyway, I just wanted to say that Mike DBE called in as well, but I don't think you heard him, Guy. He was quite strong with me, but he's not far away. That's G6DBE. He called in, and I'd be interested to hear what he's running, what aerial he's running. I spent this afternoon putting up a different aerial. I've got this military kit thing, and I wound the length of wire on it of 50 meters long. They're 50 meters long, so I wound 50 meters onto a roach bowl, and it tuned up and it matched all right, but it was a tiny bit down when Guy and who else was on earlier? WDT, I think it must have been, yeah, when Guy and WDT, David were on, I was nipping out and swapping over between the one I'm on at the moment and the roach pole one, and the one I'm on at the moment won by a tiny bit more, about half an S point on both of them, on both signals. Anyway, what really clinched it for me was that all of a sudden my SWR went sky high on the roach pole one. I don't know if the wire's faulty or something. It's this blooming it's this wire with Kevlar in the mix. It's got sort of how can you describe it? It's not a solid multi-core wire. It's got Kevlar for the strength, and I hope that it hasn't burnt out somewhere along its length. It shouldn't have done. It's rated at 150 watts in the military configuration. Anyway, Mark JCF is nothing like as strong as he normally is. Normally, Mark's one of the strongest signals on this net, but not tonight, Mark. And also, I know I'm bad, but I think you're going to have to need an egg timer, Mark. Round to Dave of G4NOW from G3WMR and the Cray Valley net.
With a break, G3WMR, G4NOW. Good evening, gentlemen. Well, so far, Guy, you're 5 and 9 plus 40. Mark JCF on fairly low power is 5 by 9 here, which is good. Dave WDT is 5 and 9 plus 20. Mark IQP is 5 and 9 plus 10 dB. And Frank, you're 5 by 5, 5 by 6 as always, for some reason, probably it's something to do with the odd configuration of aerial here. I think it's running about 25, 26 watts from an Icon 706. The SWR is 1.5 to 1, and I'm running into a doublet in a north-south configuration. I think I'm dead on to you, Frank, probably why we never get superbly good path. Well, good evening, gentlemen, and I'm very pleased to see you have your Eddystone on. I've always fancied an Eddystone, but there's so many views as to which is the best or worst Eddystone. I'd be interested in, Guy, and your view on that. And also, Mark, you'll no doubt be given a lecture on the Kodar 85. As a young boy, it was the dream transmitter. I remember seeing it at some engineering exhibition as the ultimate in miniaturisation. I'll let Guy explain it more. And Frank, that's good. Just the reason I've been very absent these days is on the 27th of March I was going for a medical. I tripped up and sprained my ankle. It's one of these people, I moved out of the way, one of these people with these silly long dog leads. I have to be a bit careful here, but I'm not a dog lover whatsoever. It's actually added to my angst about dogs, so I'm not overly happy with dogs. What else? Oh yeah, good interesting news, Mark JTF, about the 940S. That was good. And the question I have for Mark JTF is getting all that crud off the boards, or the leak from the capacitance. I just wondered what your preferred methodology is. Right. I think DBE called in, so whether he wants to call in as an over now, but otherwise I think he goes back round to Guy. I hope to be at the foundation next weekend. There's been so much going on building up to it with all the admin, and I gather there were some sort of issues with the computer, but thank God we've got whiz-bang people there. It's never quite as simple as it seems. Over to you, Guy. G0UKN in the Cray Valley Top Band Net, South London, from Golf 4 November Oscar Whiskey in Eltham.
Okay, well, 3WMR listening on the frequency.
Yeah, we assumed Mike was talking, Frank. We've heard nothing of Mike, and we assumed he was talking, and you were going to tell us when he'd finished. Back to you.
No, he seems to have disappeared. Maybe he gave up because he wasn't heard to start with. Anyway, he didn't come back, and I didn't get anyone over.
Ah, okay, so there was massive misunderstandings going on. Okay, right, well, we'll take it from the top then. I'll just see. Anybody else want to join the Cray Valley Monday evening net before I carry on? No, nothing heard. Okay, from G0UKN. Yeah, there was somebody on the frequency, but not terribly strong. Or further down there, a couple of kilohertz below us, I think. Yeah, Mark, it sounds like you've had a right old buying spree with some quite good bargains. Be interesting to see if you get the 102 up and running. They've sort of got a bit of a reputation, but when they work very, very well indeed. So, looking forward to hearing that on the air. And yeah, the 940 as well. Blimey, you have been in buying mode. That's good. Everybody's 5 and 9. Yeah, Mark, IQP noted that you might have disappeared because of dinner. That's no problem if that happens. Dave, NOW, sorry to hear about your misdemeanor with the dogs. I heard about it at the weekend. But I met a very, very nice dog over the weekend, a very friendly, well-behaved border collie at the weekend at the allotment, and he's my friend. I like all animals. I can't say that dogs. You know, my parents own dogs, and I've always got on very, very well with them. So I'm not in that mode. But there you go.
Just never owned one myself, but my parents always did. What other comments have been made? Yeah, Mark, looking forward to hearing a three-way session on with 3AT5 shortly, because my AT5 is here ready to go, and I actually turned on the T28 during your over and tuned you in on the T28. Still sounded rubbish because it hasn't got an RF gain control. So I just had to sort of de-peak the RF, de-peak the pre-select in order to bring the gain down to a reasonable level. But ho-de-ho, can't be helped. Nothing else much more to report, I don't think. So I will pass it round so we can get another over in before Mark IQP has to disappear, unless he's already done so. But shame nothing heard from DBE, because I haven't spoken to Mike actually on the air, I think probably in about sort of 40 odd years. Used to speak to him a lot when he lived at his old QTH when I was first licensed. But I'm not totally convinced we've spoken on the air since then. Maybe, but I'm not sure. Okay, pass it round to Mark. M0JCF, G0 UKN in the group.
Yeah, G0 UKN M0 JCF, running, as I say, I'm just under 4 watts, if Frank can hear me, just under 4 watts, Frank. That'll be why I'm not normally blowing your windows out. But yeah, I thought that was quite funny. We was all waiting for Frank to come back, but then I'm thinking to myself, well, actually, why would he? Because if Mike was transmitting along over, there'd be no point in us telling Frank that we can't hear him, Frank, because he wouldn't be able to then stop Mike in his tracks, would he? And I thought to myself, we could sit here for a long time if it's along over, but then it turned out that actually it wasn't. No one was talking, but hearing the Donald Duck voices below us, I was suddenly looking at my receiver and thinking, have I actually touched the tuning dial or something? I'm thinking to myself, I've broken it. I've come off frequency, and you're all having a conversation, and I've shifted up. But anyway, what I did is I switched over to the FT817, and it was just sitting there as S8 of noise, S7, S8 of noise, and I couldn't hear any Donald Ducks and that. So I thought to myself, what's happened is that net that is usually on a Monday is probably down below us. And but yeah, it's interesting. I can't hear them on the 817, but I could hear them on the Eddystone 940. I could have switched the selectivity to max or even to crystal. I'd still be able to hear all of you at reduced volume, but yeah, it's not giving me any problems. And as Guy said, it looks like they've gone. So Dave, answering you, 940s. Well, I've had a couple of Eddystones over the years. I can't really answer your question too much. Eddystone made lots of receivers. Some were for sort of commercial broadcast shortwave listening, or whatever you want to call it back in the day, DXing and all that. Some were for sort of more real towards the amateur side, a bit like this one, more amateur capable. Then I think Dyer's got one that is really suited to amateur radio. I'm not sure if it's purely amateur radio bands, but I think that the 940 that I've got is one of the better ones. It's it's obviously good for broadcast, good for ham. The only thing it isn't good for ham, if you're just a listener and you're not really noting down individual frequencies, then it's fine. But if you want to start getting really sort of in particular with the frequencies, it's typical of these receivers. As you go up the scale, it's logarithmic. So consequently, it all starts to get cramped. So when you're down in the long waves, so it's the medium wave up to where we are now, and even 7 megahertz, and even, let's have a look, 7 megahertz, right up to about, probably, I've used it on 15 on 15 meters, what's that, 21? No, it's very cramped there. It does get very cramped. So when you're up in the 10-meter band, you know, there is no way you can read the frequencies. I mean, hundreds of kilohertz almost is the resolution. You know, probably where the BC 221 would have come in useful, but I'm not going to use it for that. You know, this is good enough for what I want. So that sort of, does that answer that? I don't know if it does. Did I give you an answer? I think the 940 is probably one of the better all-rounders, and it was one of the last ones they produced. So Guy will correct me on that, and Guy will also tell you about the Eddystone. I think it's an 888 or something like that. I'm sure you was going to have it up for sale before Christmas last year, because I showed an interest, but I've got this one working now, so I'm not interested anymore. The worst one that I've had was the EC10, which was transistorized, but it really was a fun receiver, but no, it wasn't the best receiver that I've had from Eddystone. So that answers that. Dave, WDT, you were talking about building a receiver for your AT5. I mean, everyone agrees that the T28, if you haven't got one and you're not a collector and you're not a purist, don't bother wasting your money. They aren't very good at all. You could build a better regen receiver. Now, I'm in the middle still of building a couple of regens that I want to use, both transistorized and valve, that I want to use on top band. So that will probably be my preferred receiver. Now, I remember a year or so ago, you bought some valves off me, didn't you, to make a valve regen. So me personally, I would probably go down that route. But it depends how far you want to go. Guy, you mentioned earlier about the power supply for your AT5, and you said it's running about 8 kilohertz and you can hear the whistle. Well, there's something good about your ears, because I tell you what, if I can hear anything above 5 kilohertz, I think I'm a very happy person. I remember the old 9 kilohertz or thereabouts. It wasn't exactly 9, was it? Line whistle out of old 405 line TVs. I mean, I can remember as a kid that being a thing. And then I remembered as a young man still being able to hear that, but no, I can't hear the 9 kilohertz line whistle or 10 kilohertz or whatever it was. There's no way. There are sometimes I can, if I get a tone generator on and I know it's there, I can hear it, but generally no. What else have we got? So we've done the 2 meter. Oh, capacitor leaks. Yeah. Well, Dave, what I tend to use, and what I've used on this one so far, is a very well trained piece of Stanley knife blade. So I got a Stanley knife that with a pair of pliers I sort of snapped a corner off and made myself a very tiny scraper that got the hard stuff off. And then I've got this solvent. It's like an industrial cleaner, was used in the paper trade. My mate gave it to me back when I was drag racing motorcycles, because it will get anything off of anything. So you have to be a little bit careful, because it will take the enamel off your teeth sort of stuff. And I've got a tiny little bit left. So with a cotton bud, I will go over with that in a very corner of the board before I go anywhere else. Interestingly, this board, you know, it's like a phenolic board or whatever, it's actually started delaminating. So the paper layers and the resin layers, it's starting to come apart very, very slightly. So this capacitor problem must have been going for some time. I mean, it was 9 capacitors that are gone. Now, when I say 9 have gone, they were all pink on the top, bar 1. I believe that is an indicator paper on the top of them. I don't know why they would have been marked with pink anyway, other than I believe that's an indicator to show that they've leaked. They're not actively bulging on the can or on the top of the can, but the rubbers, when I took them off, the rubbers underneath are visibly bulged. And 1 or 2 of them, the actual leads have rotted off. So that gives you an idea on that. And then what's the last thing I wrote down? So we done receive. Oh, that was it. Other end of the scale. On my first over, I blathered on, didn't I, about all these heavyweights that I've been buying. One of the reasons I didn't go to the Dover Rally is because I'd managed to score a couple of heavyweights, and then of course this weekend these two more modern rigs come along. But yeah, 614 sixes, is it B's or whatever it is in the 102. I think it's I think it was like their hybrids just before they probably went fully transistorized. I'm not too sure. Don't know a lot about the rig. It's just it came my way at the right price, 25 quid. Blimey, it was good enough just to take the knobs off and sell them on eBay. But no, I intend to get it working. I think that's it. Oh, that was it. So yes, the other end of the scale. See, this is how I operate. I go all over the place. The other end of the scale, we went from all the heavyweights to me building the club project, which was the KV4P HT, and I used it on the Sunday morning 2-meter net. So it works. It took me 10 minutes to build. I didn't over-engineer the solutions to doing the soldering and that. I just followed the instructions. It said solder this down, solder this down, solder that on, click it all into place, plug it into your phone, download the app. The app automatically detects when the phone's when it's plugged into the phone anyway, and then just let it flash the firmware. It flashed the firmware. It was done. Now my solution to the soldering, bearing in mind I've been soldering 50 odd years, my solution was to just hold the module. Now I tinned all of the pads first. I held the module down, got it lined up by eye, put the fine tip soldering iron on just one of the recesses. The solder flowed. I gave it a few seconds. I took my finger away. It was still lined up solid, soldered all the rest of them. I didn't need pegs. I didn't need G-clamps. I didn't need space back machinery. I didn't even need a car jack to hold it against the board. Just don't get over it. I've been trying to tell people, don't get you wound up with this, you know. How do I hold it still? How do I hold it? Just a finger. That's all you bloody need. But anyway, as I say, I'm talking from a person that has soldered many, many times. I think I've covered everyone. And so I'm handing it round to now Dave, M0WDT, who needs to build a regenerative receiver using the valves I sold him from M0JCF.
Received it. So what have we got? Frank.
Yeah, so yeah, well, whatever your antenna you're running, you're very strong. Than the last time we was on the net. I'd say you're a little bit stronger with whatever you've made this time. I'll give everyone some signal reports actually. Guy plus 20, Mark, JCF plus 20, Mark, IQP, you're plus 10, Frank, you're plus 20 also, and Dave, now you're plus 10. So everyone perfectly readable tonight, apart from when a train goes past. Unfortunately, the new type trains are far more noisy than the old, and they seem to radiate something atrocious. As I live near a train track, I can tell when the train's coming before I can even see it by looking at my waterfall. So yeah, 8 kilohertz on the inverter would drive me mad. I've been one of these weirdos that can hear high-pitched squeals most of my life, and the 15 kilohertz whine that used to come from CRTs, yeah, I could tell when the TV was on from another room, even if the volume was down. I could just hear the 15 kilohertz whine. Yeah, I really don't like high-pitched squeals like that, and so yeah, I won't be copying an AT5 DC inverter or if I do, I will make sure it's not around 8 kilohertz. Mark, region receivers, yes, I did buy some tubes from you, and I have been thinking about it and collecting various bits ever so slowly for a long time. As this is something to accompany the coder, I think I'll probably use something more like that era, so with the B9 bases and not the I think one of the ones you gave me was UX6 and one was an octal, or a couple of octal for sure. So yeah, that's still a possibility, but I think this one's going to be using something more at a similar age. You know, I guess they were perhaps they TV valves or something like that, or just before TV valves. I've also been thinking of a regen, but I'm not really sure whether I want to annoy other people on the band if it goes into regeneration. So yeah, it's not, nothing's been written down on paper. It's all in my mind, and what I have been looking for is some kind of source for a similar sort of size box. I'm sure you used to be able to buy those kind of things from Hammond and the like, but I can't find anything like that anymore. I guess nobody buys project boxes that size anymore, and most things seem to be rectangular aluminium or extruded things now, and no sort of steel cases in that sort of old shape, you know, the sort of, I don't know, the sort of old classic kit shaped boxes. So if anyone knows of a source, I'd much appreciate it. Obviously, I'm bearing in mind that I'm a tight one and I don't really want to spend too much money. Okay, I think that's covered mostly everything. Mark, IQP, my name's David, so you can put that David for the log. With that, I'll pass it round to you, Mark. 2E0 IQP from Mike 0 Whiskey Delta Tango.
From 2E0 IQP. Thanks, Dave. Very interesting about your hearing. It's the high frequencies that usually go as the years progress, but yeah, very interesting. I'm not hearing, everybody's 5 and 9 plus 10 more or less, apart from Guy, who's slightly better, and apart from Mark JCF, who I can't hear. I mean, I can tell someone's there, but I'm not reading it, unfortunately. I've gone back to my doublet antenna. I configured it as a Marconi T, I think, just by tying the ends together, and that didn't do me any good, really. It didn't help, so I've gone back to this, and I'm clearly getting out. I'm slightly suspicious. I'm tuning it with an MFJ tuner, and rather than as I move the knob, the SWR gradually falls away, and I find a low point. There's a very sharp notch where I get a low SWR, and yeah, but as I say, it seems to be working, but I was a bit suspicious of it. I'm going to have to wait for another time, I think, to find out about the AT5, but I look forward to hearing about it. This will be my final, so I'll say 7-3 to everybody. A great pleasure to make contact, and thank you, Guy, for running the net. Dave, over to you. G4 now from 2E0. I beg your pardon, sorry. This goes over to Frank, G3 WMR from 2E0 IQP.
Yeah, roger. 2E0 IQP and the group G3 WMR, and I'm hearing myself coming through on Derby, which I'm just going to mute slightly. Right, no, I'm quite surprised that Mark, if Mark's running low power, he's getting into Derby. Just discernible, but not bad for low power. Everyone else so far is readable on Derby, straining, not loud particularly, but and not as good as direct. in the noise a bit on the Derby SDR. Right, no, I'm really struggling tonight, so I'll make this my final. I've really struggled, unfortunately, with Dave NOW as well. There's this horrible burbling over most of this part of the band, unfortunately. It wouldn't really make much difference even if we were on a different frequency. There's just something that's got it in for me today at this location. Interested to hear that I'm stronger than before there, David. But Mark, IQP, I got quite well this time round, and Mark, you're getting into Derby reasonably well. But I hadn't got it switched on last time Dave NOW was transmitting, but I might be able to hear Dave better on the SDR than in real life. But in real life, I couldn't really get much of what you were saying, so I missed whatever this story was about a contretemps with a dog. No, it's not my night for this net tonight, I don't think, so I'll wish everyone all the best, and I'll try and listen to see what I can hear on AM, but I'm not going to come back and transmit. So very good night to everyone, and round to Dave G4NOW from G3WMR.
G3WMR and the Cray Valley Net in South London. Yeah, cheers and goodbye, Frank, and goodbye, Mark. Frank, if you can hear me on the Derby SDR, you are 555 with me, 555. We've got a lot of background noise. We don't seem to have a very good path to each other. I'm not certain what's going on. Anyway, yeah, it was interesting, guy. Dogs, yes, there are some nice dogs, but I have to say that I have a very different view on keeping dogs to a majority of people in the UK. I better not say too much because I know there's a lot of dog lovers around, and when I'm reading about bully dogs, dog bites, had my son, he was younger, attacked on a beach by a dog. Don't worry, he's friendly. Anyway, that's a whole other issue. Anyway, thanks, Mark, about the info on the Eddystone. I've always fancied one, but I have to stop collecting. I must stop collecting. It's one of those things. Dave IQP, you're very lucky to have such acute hearing. Certainly mine. I've lost part of those, but I did go. As you know, I'm a gentleman of advanced age. When I was about 60 or 70 or 60 something, I saw 3 hearing tests in Regent Street, so I went in because I'd had difficulty listening to students, and gave me a test. He said, I've never had anybody go in for a hearing test with such good hearing, but I don't think that's the case now. Anyway, as we want to go AM, very quick, hope everyone is well. Hopefully be back in circulation. I was very sad to miss Dave Lee's presentation, and I was also sad not to be there for the foundation. I'd been sort of dealing with them as the face of Cray Valley for several months before, chasing money, etc. Anyway, let's hope they all come past. Anyway, over to you, Guy, G0UKN, as the controller of the Cray Valley Top Band Net in South London. This is G4 now.
Yeah, G4NOW, G0UKN. Okay, well, I will change over to AM now. We'll see what we can do on AM. I will initially come back on the code R85, and we can run 85s all round, more the better. So we will have a go at that, but it all depends on how good my receive side is on the 85, to be honest with you. But we will give that a go. Regarding Eddystone, yeah, let's have a chat offline about Eddystone, Dave. I've got a 940, the same as the one that Mark's using. Well, it's all right. It works fine. I've got an 830, which is probably their best general coverage receiver. Very, very good receiver indeed. And the other one Mark mentioned, the 888A, which is an amateur bands only receiver, and is an impressive amateur bands receiver. And I've also got an EC10, which is a little transistorized thing full of germanium transistors. Yeah, it's alright, it works. You do need to settle them these days, and maybe the problem Mark had was the crappy germanium transistors. It's got some AF117s in it, say no more, Dave. Okay, this is Golf Zero Uniform Kilo November, going to be changing to... I can hear a 10.125 line whistle from my 405 line TVs, and I can certainly hear this this inverter on this AT5 running about 8. I reckon it's about 8. I can work it out exactly just by sticking a microphone, I think, in my oscilloscope. I might have a look later. But anyway, I just need to change antennas, and I will come back on the AT5 from G0UKN.
M0 JCF is on AM and hopefully on frequency. Well, we're getting up to 20 watts, but on the normal speaking voice, seeing about, seeing about 12, 15 watts peak, maybe a little bit more. So M0 JCF is listening and waiting for Guy, G0UKN. M0 JCF standing by.
M0